Everyone, this is Lava Man again, and for my own personal purposes, I felt like sprite ripping um, uh, the Mega Man player sprite from each of the six NES games. Um, Mr. Mike already has a good resource on, um, the Spriter's resource. Psh, big whoop, but I felt like assembling them myself and sort of breaking down how each character ROM, or at least bank, loads in the player graphics to sort of show, I don't know, the little details in between each and what things were changed and why. Um, right off the bat, you can see that the CHR info doesn't normally look like this. I colored it manually. So like this would all be four colors, and I just assigned the palettes that would normally be active for them. Um, so this is, I think, 2-0. This is 3-8. This is 0F. You get the point. The Mega Man player sprite usually just uses these two. This is for the Yashishi, the Powerball, and the Rock sprite. And so these two palettes would be reserved for enemies and stuff. Mega Man 1 is pretty efficient with its, well, not as efficient as it could be, but you'll see down the line, it is generally pretty efficient with how it stores player graphical information, all the stun graphics, the super arm graphics, the throwing graphics, the open hand graphic, the buster graphic, it's all there. The get hurt graphic, the lemon graphic, the power-ups, which will usually be in every stage. Things like the 1-up, health. I forget if that's... No, I think I separated that manually. Well, let me check. Let me check PPU viewer and with Mega Man 1 open and check real quick. Be right back. Oh yeah, it's oh yeah, that's it. It's just loaded it's loaded in the same bank most of the time. It's just all the way at the bottom, and then there's other stuff in between usually. Yeah. But as you can see, you have the running sprite, the blinking sprite, the tippy toe sprite, become eternal, the jumping sprite, the get hurt sprite, the climbing sprite, getting up from a ladder, shooting on a ladder, a unique hand graphic for throwing on a ladder, buster open for all these, and yes, on the stun graphic, this little part is chopped off, just to fit it in there. It's not, it's obviously not used all that frequently. It's just for Gutsman's fight. This I'll get to later. You got the throwing sprite, you got the throwing in midair sprite, and the super arm graphics, and then the teleport animation, which I'll talk about later as well. The ready signal, the little super arm piece of debris. If you color that with the super arm palette, you'll see that it was supposed to be the small throwable ore seen in the planning docks, Powerball, point system, 1-up, quote-unquote energy element. It's canonically the core of the Robot Master that died. The death explosion balls, power, health grabs, Shishi, enemy bullet, player bullet, health bar, and then the rock sprites. So as you can see here, one goof I found while ripping this particular set of player sprites for Mega Man is that the heal graphic is erroneous, and I can prove that because that's this is supposed to be this graphic loaded in, which I believe is, let's see, that's 8. Which I'm fairly confident, hold on, is a duplicate. Okay, not of that, but yeah, it's a straight duplicate of this second heel. This is a duplicate of this, and so this second one over here could have been planned to be more like that. And then you could raise this up a pixel, like so, and it would be fine. Problem solved. Alternatively, you could use that extra duplicate space to create a little extra pixel up there. It would probably create the same amount of flicker. Maybe it could have been it could be a genuine oversight, or maybe they decided last minute, nah, I don't want to cause that much. No, that's still for here. Well, yeah, I don't think flicker was the issue. I think it was a genuine oversight. Other than that, the teleport animation is, I kind of like the squash and stretch of it. It moves up and down a little bit, so it's not. So it actually creates the movement of a squash and a stretch. So that's the beam as it comes down. Then this frame a couple pixels above the ground, then almost embedded into the ground, and then this frame, and then the standing sprite, which creates a nice squash, and then stretch, and then there you go. Overall, it's just solidly done otherwise. I really like the run cycle. Oh yeah, this. Right. So, this extra, so originally I thought this open hand graphic was completely unused, but it is actually used for the frame when you throw in midair, and in subsequent sprites when you throw in midair. But it can also be attached to the front of the arm, like the Mega Buster. In fact, it fits a little better too, as you're seeing. And so, if you've read the Mega Man 1 planning docs and you're aware of other bits of trivial information, Mega Man was originally planned to shoot from his palm Iron Man style, and this was also back when he had one palette. Eventually, the two palette thing was figured out, and he was given a face. This was when the Ninja Captor or helmet transformation idea was scrapped, and changing the palette color for his armor as a way to denote weapon transformation was brought up instead. And by that point, so halfway through development, Keiji Inafune joined the team. If you're familiar with this channel, then you've heard my rants about how Inafune obviously is not the creator of Mega Man. Akira Kitamura is, but Inafune did still stick around for a very long time at Capcom, up until Mega Man 10. And so he has still been influential on the visuals, and this dates back to halfway through Mega Man 1, after he was finished with doing some things for Street Fighter 1. That was his first Capcom gig. Street Fighter 1 was released a month before Mega Man 1 to put things into perspective. So yeah, he was fresh off that, and he joined halfway through. This was in progress. And he was the one who came up with the suggestion of, hey, if the front arm was like designed to transform anyway, why not have like a cool transforming arm cannon thing for his default weapon, and alongside the other weapons? And so that stuck. And so the Mega Buster has become an iconic staple of the character design. The Mega Man character design in general really is just a collage of different people's ideas. The blue armor wasn't originally planned, but with NES limitations sort of playing into the engine, it worked out in that sense. It's not because the NES has a lot of blue colors, far from it. It was more just red would be too garish, and blue just sort of worked out as a medium color. Anyway, so you can plaster the hand graphic on there for, like, I don't know, a weapon where he's holding out something. And of course, I think this is used for, like, Jupiter's weapon and V. But I think that's, like, the only time something similar to this is ever really used. And so this is just kind of like a custom what if. And I think that does it for one. If there's some other shit, I can easily get back to it. Mega Man 2. Moving right along. So the throwing sprite's still there. The super arm sprites and the stun animation aren't there anymore, obviously, because Gutsman is not a thing. There are actually still plenty of vestiges of Mega Man 1 graphics, such as super arm graphics, the sprite when he gets stunned, that's his ass we're talking about, and the Mega Man 1 energy power-up. Just kind of littered around. You can see it right there. Still that duplicate heel graphic that didn't get fixed in the second game. Furthermore, for some reason, even though this is the same... so Mega Man 2 uses the same core engine as 1, but it has a larger expansion chip. It uses the MMC1 instead of the Unrom, so it has twice as much storage space. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, so that's why it has a bunch of things like palette animations and bank switching a bit more frequently. And it's not as tight on space. It doesn't have to copy, like... it doesn't have to pull a copy robot with the AIs and stuff. But, somehow, bizarrely, the throwing animation on the ladder is misaligned. The sub sprite is slightly off, and I'm not quite sure why. So with that extra space, with the super arm removed and the stun animation mostly removed, they had some extra stuff to add. Things like flashier power-ups, a giant ring for the death balls. This wouldn't be used until Mega Man 3, but you can see it's still stored in there. And I can check right now real quick, just to make sure I'm not, like... Just to make sure I'm not crazy. Yeah, there it is. Okay. So that's a thing. You can see the water graphics right here. This is the first time there are proper water physics and a respective particle effect for the water and for the bubbles. Damage hitbox is still the same. Ready still the same. Sweat particles are still the same. Teleport's still the same. There's this cool cutscene animation, of course, when Mega Man, transforms with his helmet. I just showed off the breakable wall. I don't think I put it in the CHR info, though. Did I? I could have sworn it was in there somewhere. Oh, right, I'm looking at Mega Man. This is Mega Man 3 info. Get over here. What's that doing there? I missorted that. Yeah. But you can see the power-up sprites are different this time around, of course. Enemy bullet is distinct from the power-up sprite. Any other interesting tidbits? Oh, right, the E-Tank. So, I'll rant about it... Should I rant about it now or later? I'll rant about it now. So, Mega Man 2 has a kind of an understandable reason for having the E-Tank with the player character sprite info, but um, the later games don't really have a justification for it, and I'll explain why right now. So, Mega Man 2 was when the E-Tank, because this is the game when the E-Tank was first implemented, there were running plans for the E-Tank to be dropped by enemies. So it would make sense for this to be loaded with the player graphics, as opposed to something like the Yashishi, which is separate, because that's not always going to be like something that's in every freaking level. And the same for the Magna Beam. That's not loaded with the player graphics either. But something like the E-Tank, you're going to be killing enemies, they're going to drop E-Tanks, or at least that was the plan. And it kind of puts into perspective why you'd only be able to carry 4 and why you'd lose them all in a game over. It's to prevent you from... It's also to prevent you from grinding them. And of course, this feature was taken out anyway, because that would be too easy, I think. I'm glad enemies don't drop E-Tanks, but that's sort of why the E-Tank is implemented the way it is. I think I completely disagree with Dennis that like the E-Tank is implemented perfectly in 2. I'm pretty sure that was just a frickin' vestige of it, you know, being an enemy drop. So yeah, it makes sense why it's loaded with the player graphics in this game, but personally, it doesn't need to be there taking up that space, and this will make sense when I go over Mega Man 3. So, Mega Man 3 has a couple changes from the first and second game. Some for the better, some for the worse. Every NES game following 2 kind of runs on its own engine entirely, because apparently it's just faster to code a new engine when you have a new programmer on board, because only they would be able to read their own code. Mega Man 1 and 2 also have the same programmer, so it would make sense for them to share basically the same engine, with some physics tweaks for the latter. With Mega Man 3, new engine, of course. So for Mega Man 3, it makes sense why it's on a new engine entirely. Also the fact that it's the first Mega Man game to use the MMC3 chip, which is, I think, quadruple the size of the MMC1, so even more space. And of course, there's all the TSA tile-related things that completely turn the graphical limitations on their head and allow you to pack even more info in a smaller amount of space, basically. Alongside scan lines, scrolling, a whole bunch of crazy graphical shit, which wouldn't really be taken advantage of until the 5th game, you could argue, in terms of graphical show-offiness. But anyway, so one change that I do like is that the flesh palette was changed from, this flesh color was changed from 3.8 to 3.7. 3 is the value, 7 is the hue, 8 is more of a yellow column, 7 is more of an orangish column, so it looks a lot better. He doesn't have jaundice anymore. But I think they overcompensated when fitting the slide sprite in there. So the slide sprite replaces a couple graphics that it didn't need to. So the E-Tank doesn't need to be here, but also you can see literally right there, Super Arm graphics again. The same duplicate heel graphic, that didn't get fixed. At least the throwing ladder sprite is fixed. But, yeah, you got some And I put them off in the corner. Some leftover Super ARM graphics. And the Mega Man 1 energy power-up is still there. And, yeah, and the E-Tank graphics, which don't need to be loaded into the player sprite. They can be like the question tanks and be like a separate enemy sprite. I don't think it's stored all that efficiently, basically. And, one of the graphics that the slide sprite does overwrite is one of the helmet earpieces when he runs, so there would normally be a pixel on the shoulder. For this frame, because that's a different graphic from... Because that's a different graphic from, like, this. But a consequence of that is that the shoulder looks a bit nicked during that running frame. And you can see it when you play 3 and 4. That would carry over into 4. Let's see. Hold on. So another thing that it kind of overwrites or decided to overcompensate with, there are also, you know, slide particle graphics, so those take up a little extra space as well. But more important, more noticeably, it overwrites a couple of extra little graphics for the teleport animation, which you can see is different from this. And it overwrites a couple of extra graphics for the power-up animations as well, which don't have that frickin' shine on them anymore, because that was a separate graphic. And so they remove that for storage, I guess. But you still have these 3 graphics. You still have the E-Tank. And so I disagree with how it decided to pack information into the character bank. I would have kept the highlights, and I think that extra little mini sprite could have been used either for the run frame or for the teleportation frame. There are multiple ways this could have been handled a little better. The part of Mega Man 3 that was actually rushed was the second half of it. Because halfway through was when they threw out the main planner for him to work on something else, I guess. And so they basically had to shit out the rest of the game without a planner. Well, Inafune and I think Bamboo became co-planners after that, you could say, for the second half of 3. Anyway, yeah, the second half is rushed, but I don't think that's necessarily related to how the graphics are stored here. Moving right along. Oh yeah, character cutscene animations. I like these. I mean that sprite's kind of awkward, but you know, I like the concept of having some extra animations for cutscene purposes. Mega Man 4 carries over a lot of the errors and carries over a lot of the, you know, just some of the errors from Mega Man 3. So and the first game still got the nicked heel, and you can see it right here. It's still there. It's still the same as that. But yeah, highlights are deleted still. Teleport animation still. But the remaining few Super ARM and Mega Man 1 sprites finally did get used for charge shot graphics, so that's something cool. And I think the wire adapter helmet could look a little better. It also brings this little thing back from 2, because 4 likes to make a lot of 2 references. Oh yeah, 3 had its own splash particle effect, different from 2's, and 4 would change it a second time. This has a little extra bubble on top of the middle, and I'm pretty sure that's an error, because it doesn't show up in subsequent iterations. But this would basically start the more vanilla-looking splash particle effect. And of course, I also ripped the Toadman ones, which are stored in the same row. So the bubble, then the 3 Toadman splash particles when you're in the beginning of the level and there's a bunch of rain, and the slide particle for when you're in the rain, which uses this frame and then reuses these graphics from the end of the water splash particle, a body of water anyway, as an extra little frame there, which is clever, I think. Nice little feature. It's, as you would expect, the adapter graphics are in separate rows entirely. The cutscene graphics are in separate rows entirely. I guess it maxes out on space a little more than 3. You could say 5 decided to overhaul everything. I still think its gameplay is crap, but I won't rag on the graphics too much, other than like aesthetics. Some like levels look really good and some look really bad, but so new engine entirely. How it handles player graphics is a little bit different. So as you can see, I labeled this green, I labeled this red. This part, it actually takes advantage of being able to actively bank switch stuff with the MMC3 chip. These graphics are for when Mega Man is running, for when he's on the ground, standing, blinking, tippy-toeing, or running or shooting on the ground, and also the teleport animation. This extra row, or this extra chunk, is for when he's jumping, he's sliding, he gets hurt, or he's on a ladder. So these rows won't be on the same, won't be in the bank at the same time. It'll switch between one of them depending on what frame is called for. So if he needs to jump, it'll be swapped with this. And if he needs to run, it'll be swapped with this. And this will already be loaded in as additional power-up graphics. And you can see you got a whole bunch of crazy shit. It very cleverly used the health as the health power-up and the health bar as a way to make letter grabs. That's 4 health power-ups stacked with a little hollow inside, and then a fifth sprite inserted into there, which is pretty impressive and pretty crazy. Now, that means this is actually 5 sprites. This is still 4. So that's pretty impressive. I was too lazy to really rip the charge shot properly. I don't think it... Oh yeah, this efficiently only uses 2 little sprites right here. And this ending is actually from the Explosion Death Ball, which is pretty funny to think about. But this is its own separate thing, because now they have the space for it. These extra rows are for cutscenes, so the weapon get, and he's holding up the ceiling, and charge kick is a weapon. I was too lazy to rip the wave bike properly. But another more interesting thing to note is that they aggressively pruned the player sprite itself and fixed all the mistakes we talked about prior. The shoulder isn't nicked anymore. The heel isn't nicked anymore. The ladder graphics got redone, which I don't really like as much. The slide got tweaked a little, which I think actually is a bit of an improvement. Let's actually compare these right now to all the games prior, which basically is the same one. So 1 through 4. Yeah, his ass got expanded a little. I don't. You throwing it back. I don't know about that. I don't think that was necessary, but I do like the back of the helmet and how it has a little bit of an end of the ridge, and the helmet holes from Mega Man 3 cutscene, I think. Yeah, there they are. The friggin' helmet holes. That was another thing Inafune kind of added when illustrating the character. Of course, he didn't create him again. There are some slight highlights to the throwing up frame, you could say. And then the side one is most notably changed. I don't really like how the head is smaller and it doesn't really have as much of a face. I get that the older one is just kind of blah, blah. Looks kind of silly, but I don't think that's like a substantial improvement. But that's just my opinion. Oh yeah, his ass is still large. Well, yeah, because it's the same graphics. Yeah. I don't know, but they redid those frames. They redid this frame. They did kind of pay attention to how each frame looks. This running frame for when he's shooting, though, has the face sort of in front of the arm, and that's not a layering thing like here. The face sprite is deliberately layered behind the rest of the body, so it creates this. This isn't a layering thing. It actually has that hole in the running frame itself, if I can find it. Yeah, when he shoots. Yeah, this frame. Right here. So you can see there's actually an opening for the corner of the jaw to just stick in front of the arm for some reason. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. I don't know why this is a thing. Doesn't look good. Oh, that's why I highlighted it red, because it fixed the heel, but it ruined the chin. Oh, okay. Now I remember. They still haven't gotten this frame right then. I completely forgot. Oh my god. Okay. So no, I don't. So yeah, and then we carry over into 6 actually. Did it actually carry over into 6? Yeah. Oh, that's still 5. Duh. Okay, 6 fixed it. We'll get to that later though. So 6 is the only game where this frame doesn't look botched in some form or fashion. It's kind of hilarious to think about. I don't know why they decided to do it like that. These are customary, but these throwing frames are loaded in, and they're not actually used at all. All the Mega Man 5 sprites either use... Sorry, all the Mega Man 5 weapons either use the shooting frame, or they don't have an animation at all for some reason. So Power Stone doesn't have an animation, Star Crash doesn't have an animation, frickin' Gravity Hole doesn't have an animation, and I think those were supposed to be throwing frames. But they don't animate at all, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And it's just kind of underwhelming. In addition to the weapons actually sucking, but that's unrelated. So yeah. Oh yeah, and I think these frames are slightly, yeah, these frames are completely unique. Um, you can see that like the front of the foot is a little nicked off, so that this could be mirrored and this could be mirrored and this could be mirrored, and it doesn't, and it looks pretty good as a result. I think, yeah, these face sprites are also custom loaded in. I don't think the 360-degree turn looks all that good, and part of it is a fault of how the standing frame is composed, but also just I don't know, some inconsistencies here and there. Oh yeah, there's also another frame I think loaded in even. Yeah, loaded in at the end here for when Mega Man turns his head in a cutscene, specifically the Darkman 4 cutscene. That's actually a different graphic from this, and I'll mirror them to show that they're different. You doing the Jim Carrey? But yeah, you'd actually go like this. Huh? What? That's a real Proto Man? What? So that's what that's all about right there. So I marked it just to doubly make sure. Hey, look. Eternal should use this for its standing frame. Just mirror it and you're good to go. Yeah. And that's Mega Man 5. A lot more interesting to talk about. Oh yeah. We should also get back to the teleport frame. So this is the little graphic that got nicked. And that's fine for this frame. I don't think that extra height was really needed, but this frame, it's slightly lower than this. So it actually creates a bit of an implication of a squash, even though it doesn't really go out sideways that much. But here it just kind of looks awkward. It goes and then it squashes and then it expands and then it stretches and then it doesn't look as good. Maybe these were at different heights slightly, so maybe this was a bit further down or something like that, but it doesn't look as smooth comparing them. So yeah. Oh yeah, there's also no heel graphic here, but that's more of a, like, A, space reasons, B, that's for when the Wily Castle's blowing up and the background's black anyway, so big frickin' whoop. And then Mega Man 6, which copies 5's graphics. The improved slide sprite is there, the modified ladder sprites are there, and this frame is finally fixed. Thank fucking God. But it also, as you can see right here, the Get Hurt sprite is a little different. And you could call that an error. I think what they were originally planning to do, just pulling this out right now, is that they were planning to, this is just speculation, so pardon me if I'm completely wrong, but I think 24/8, yep. And then this goes like that, and then that goes like that, and then this goes up a little, and boop, 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 boop. And then you have the normal sprite and the blinking sprite. I think what they were planning to do with this is layer this over the blinking sprite, as opposed to the jump and get hurt face frames, which have always been separate from the standing and blinking frames. I don't know why there's a duplicate of this though. That doesn't really. They're in the same row. Whatever. There's plenty of space. It doesn't really matter. But I think they're planning to layer it over the blinking sprite. Okay, that actually doesn't Okay, hypothesis disproven. That looks worse. Looks like he's getting I don't even no. Okay, never mind. I don't know why they maybe they thought of doing it like that and by that point it was too late. I'm not quite sure why the mouth sprite is really connected to the player's the armor sprite, not the face. Um, it especially looks bad when charging up because the mouth is glowing. Uh, but otherwise, the frames look okay. These highlights are still missing. They could have been brought back in 5, but they weren't. Well, you could say that like these 2 rows, okay, that's already kind of full, but like, I don't know, man. If you have like just extra leftover space, like for this, for instance, um, and this, and that's a bunch of empty space. You could have put it somewhere, I think. Yeah, well, that would be loaded and outloaded. I mean, loaded and unloaded. But definitely like here or something. You could have put, I don't know. And the other nitpick I have with these highlights being removed from 2 is just that like the mini one has a highlight still, and the big one doesn't, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's just like that. By 6 it's just like that, and of course also by 6 the throwing sprites are no longer existent. The open hand sprite is no longer here. And I'd imagine this was to make room for the adapter sprites, which, fair enough. I should get to ripping those sometime to put it into broader perspective. But yeah, so all of 6's weapons kind of just shoot from the buster still. I'll shoot directly from the buster, which I guess is a slight improvement over some just not having an animation at all. Like, I think even Plant Barrier shoots from the buster. And it could have been to compensate for the adapter sprites, but yeah, a bit of a missed opportunity to bring back some throwing animations, I think. Some more unique weapon interactions with the player themselves instead of the projectile. I don't know. That's just me. Teleportation frame is still the same. Slide Cloud was reverted to the Mega Man 4 version. It was actually that and the sweat droplets were actually given a bit of a shading in Mega Man 5, I guess. But the shading was removed from the Mega Man 4 splash particles, which I don't really get. And so just all the shading is removed for everything, I guess. I mean, the water splash particles and the slide cloud. And I think this part's still loaded in, but it's not displayed compared to the 5 version. I can go back and check in like I can edit the description if that proved to be false, but I'm pretty sure that's how it went. E-Tank is still with the power-up graphics. At least it's actually sorted with the powered-up graphics. I mean, the power-up graphics. And everything is actually organized for these last 2, when it was just kind of the same overwritten, jumbled mess before. But, yeah, I just found the history of this sprite kind of just interesting. The fact that they have actually made attempts to tweak it over time, and fix little errors here and there, but the default standing sprite still remains. Yeah, I hope this little tour was insightful. Oh yeah, I also have I also decided to rip some, I think this is V, or Game Boy 4, not, yeah, it's just V. These may or may not be completely accurate. I think they're mostly accurate. The hand sprite's a little messed up. You can see how they worked around the heel mistake by just changing, just getting it to fit instead, which is funny. Jumping sprite looks a bit off, but it's otherwise interesting how they're able to cram a bit more in there. Storage-wise, very funnily enough, Rock Force would use the Game Boy slide particle effect and recolor it NES style instead of using the thinner slide particle effect, which I just find funny. It's actually a guilty pleasure. I think this looks a bit better how it's thicker like that. And this graphic is still the same, oddly enough. But yeah, that's my sort of tour of the different Mega Man player sprites. Yeah, I hope this was insightful, and I don't know when I'll get back to doing more videos. Probably the next eon or two. But I just felt like stopping by to show this off. Until next time, this is Lava Man, signing off.